In this video, I'm going to take you through three of my favourite drills that help players release the club. So releasing the club is really important. It's that motion of getting the club from being effectively open and behind us to catching up, squaring the face and really getting the full energy onto the ball. So if you're a player who sort of struggles with a ball flight that goes to the right, for right-handed players, it's a bit slicey, then this is a really important video for you. And I'd be doing a combination of these three drills with a lot of my players. Make sure you watch through to the end one. That's the one I would use with pretty much all my players, and it's all but guaranteed to help us learn to square the club face. If you enjoyed the video, then please click subscribe, and that way you'll be able to get more videos just like this one. Let's start by understanding, what do coaches actually mean when they talk about releasing the club. Well, let's start by relating it to an athletic motion that we're probably all quite familiar with, the throw. So if I was gonna throw a ball, we create this energy in the downswing, we move our body, we sort of drag the arm and the elbow, and at some point we release the ball with that last kind of flick of the wrist and extension of the arms to get that energy that we've built up through the system and out onto the ball. So that last bit is our release. And in the golf swing, of course, it's about creating that kind of swoosh and power at the bottom of the swing, but also plays a big role in how we square the face. So golf swing wise, we're similar to the swing, we're similar to the ball throw. We're driving our body, we're pulling on the handle. Now, if I just keep pulling on the handle and I keep pulling in this manner, that club is never going to catch up and swing out in front of me and square up. So I'll show you that again. So what we're after is for the club to swing around, rotate and square up. If I just keep pulling, then I'm going to get some shanks, or at the very least I'm going to leave the face open. So the release is that motion where towards the bottom of the swing, as we turn our body, we also rotate our arms and the club unwinds and squares up to obviously to hit the ball straight. So the release is about getting maximum power onto the ball, improving your strike, but mainly about squaring the face at the bottom of the swing. Drill number one is quite simple and playful, and for drill number one, I would invite the student just to put their left arm out in front of them with their palm down, and then I would just ask the player to rotate palm up and just rehearse that motion. So palm down, palm up. So clearly it's just the forearm rotating. And in coaching circles, people call that supination, supination, just the forearm rotating that way. And then down this way, same thing. And then we've got the hang of that kind of really simple motion. We just add a little bit of forwards and back while getting that rotation of the forearm. That is a key part of our release. If I did that with a club in my hands, so that's the next stage. So I've got a little bit of handle drag. So that forwards motion is the drag. And at some point, my logo on the back of my hand needs to go from pointing at the camera to pointing behind me. And ideally, I would combine that with a bit of chest rotation as well. And now I've got the club releasing. Nice to do it with a club. You can feel the weight, but if you want to feel it at speed, then it's also quite a good idea to do it with a cane. So you can add a little bit more into that, and you really start to get a feel of how we get some energy. And it's quite intuitive as well. Now, interestingly, as I'm creating a little bit more swoosh, I can feel the pressure in my feet are changing. I'm starting to use the pressure in my front foot to help me apply the brakes to get the club swooshing past me. So that's interesting, isn't it? So what starts with just sort of working that motion ends up with the whole body getting involved. But before that can happen, we must understand the mechanics of just letting that left arm rotate and the elbow kind of bend in towards us. So we've done our swooshing. We can feel the left arm rotating and the elbow sort of bending down. When you do that drill, just be mindful that you're not sort of dragging the arm off the body. That's not what would happen in the swing. As we rotate the lead arm, the elbow would sit down and rotate. So we've done that a little bit, and I would then just invite the students to have a few half swings where they are just quite playful and feel that same motion of how they rotate the arm. Now, I think done at a beginner stage of this motion, it's all quite kind of mechanical, and there's a lot of effort to turn the club. But like anything, as people get more skilled, it's almost like they don't have to do it at all. So what I mean by that is, you know, as I sort of pull and swoosh the club there's really minimal torque from my left arm. Once I get it going, I can feel the weight of the club sort of wanting to rotate and pass me. And that's the stage we want to get to, where it feels like it's quite intuitive, and the weight and the motion of the club almost rotates our arm for us. I don't think you'd see many tour players really focusing too much on their release. It's something that generally has been learnt, and it just happens through the motion. Before we get to that stage though, we've got drills to do. So back to the ball hitting then. So some half swings and just feeling how we pull the arm, and at some point we've got to actually slow the handle and rotate it. So a few sort of playful hits, and you can see the finish. And this is important for the player to focus on. I've managed to stop the finish, and sure enough, the left elbow is down and that arm is rotated. And that wasn't an aggressive motion of my right arm turning over. It was more me allowing the weight of the club to pass me. And because we've done the drills, our arms are educated enough to feel how they need to rotate. That's drill number 1. Drill number 2 is coming right up. If you're enjoying the video, then please click subscribe. And these are 3 of my favorite drills that help players release the club down at the bottom and, you know, manage to square the club. But, you know, people react to different things. And if you click subscribe and notify, then there'll be other approaches that might well work better for you. Drill number 2 then. So drill number 1 was all around the left arm and how we kind of pull and swoosh the club and even get our body involved towards the end. Drill number 2 is around what goes on with the right arm, and to some degree the right side of our body. So first up, Louise, may I ask you just to come around this side. Let's have a look at the placement of my feet. So for this drill, this is an old Leadbetter drill. Well, that's when I saw it first, back in the 90s. And I use it a lot with my students, particularly if they're not moving their body through particularly well or not squaring the face. So I have put, so if that's my sort of normal stance here, I would move my left foot forwards a bit and my right foot back a little bit, so that toe of the back foot is in line with the heel of the front foot. And then I would start by just inviting the player to have a few swings one-handed. Now, right-handed, of course, and the aim being to be able to get the whole right side of the body, so knee, hip, shoulder and arm, through and over the front foot. So I'll do that towards the camera. So you can see as I'm making that motion, there's almost a sort of tennis topspin-ish style to that. The whole right side comes through, the right side of my chest comes through, and that arm rotates into a finish. And then, of course, we'll do the same drill, 2 hands and hitting some shots. Not full swings, and we're just aiming to get the feeling of how the right arm and the right side of our body turns over and squares the face. So they don't need to be big hits. If you can hold the finish as well, that's always a good indication that you're moving well. Okay, so that's the feet in the right place. And with that drill, there's a little bit of forward motion as well. So, you know, we take it back, we get the pressure into that front foot, and then turn the right side over. One more go. And you'll notice as we do these drills, when we talk about release, there isn't any rolling of the face. And you can see how I've got the face rolled over there. So in the swing, you know, as we release it, the wrists unhinge and the club sort of rotates around us. What it doesn't want to do is rotate heavily on its own axis. So we'll sometimes see that with players desperate to square the face, and they'll wrench the face over. That is going to lead to really inconsistent club face delivery. So as I'm working that motion, I'm turning the right side of my body over, rotating the club. You can see where the face is there. It's kind of pointing up, maybe slightly turned in. It's definitely not sort of rotating and face down. Let's do that one more time. And then of course, once you've got the hang of that, you would then want to think about the ball flight. Ideally, we're aiming for a slight draw. So the draw, of course, having that intention of the draw is going to encourage the face to square up. And then you can put a little bit more speed and energy into the swing. Moving on then, release drill number 3. Now this is one of my favorites because it really kind of involves a kind of complicated set of movements that is the golf swing. It has them all going on, but with a very simple focus for the player. And this is how it works. So we're coming back to our circle drill. So I'll go through this briefly. There's lots of the circle drill mentioned on the channel. If you want to, I'll put some links in the notes below if you want to go through this in a little bit more detail. But essentially it works like this. So the golf swing is a circular motion. So we think about the motion of the club head behind us and through. So it's a circle that's on a tilt. Now, so once we've got that kind of that overall concept clear in our mind, then I would invite the player to stand up and make some horizontal circles around them. And the idea with that is when we're in golf stance, the circle's on a tilt, it's slightly complicated, and we've got all our other kind of concepts and theories of learning that come into this. But changing the task really can go a long way to simplifying things. So you've got the club in front of you, hands a bit lower, so there's that sort of kink there. And the challenge is, can I make a horizontal circle with the club head? Now, as I do that, you can see that I'm keeping the same arm structure that you'd see in the golf swing. Got my L shapes. But notably, watch what happens with the club face. So obviously starts vertical, and as it works behind me, it should be getting fairly flat, almost on its back. Now, of course, if I just keep pulling from there and it stays on its back, that is not going to be squaring up and hitting the ball straight. And that's what I mean by not releasing. So done well, we'll see how the face sort of gets on its back in the backswing, and at some point it needs to line up, and you'll see in the through swing how it turns over. So it doesn't take long for players to kind of grasp that feeling of how that happens. And when our focus is on the club head, the kind of how the wrists and arms work is very intuitive, and players tend not to have to get too kind of mentally involved in that process. Just being aware of where the face is and how it rotates is enough. So once we've got that working, I mean, you can even add an awareness scale to this, so you can just be mindful of the angle that the club's coming into the ball at. On a scale of 0 would be straight, open maybe 1 to 5, closed 1 to 5. Again, another really good drill I've done elsewhere on the channel. So you'd bring it through and just ask yourself, where was the face when it came through impact? So, in this case, it felt like it was more that way, maybe an open 3. Anyway, back to the exercise. So I've got a feeling of how the face rotates and turns over. So now then, I would invite the student just to tilt the circle down a little bit so it becomes more like our golf swing. So we go from chest height. Now the club is just below knee height. Same kind of motion, but of course what the top stage didn't have was the up and down motion in the swing, which is just the arms lifting up and off our rib cage. So if I add that up and down motion to our circular pattern, we now have our golf swing on plane, still with the focus on how the face rotates into the through swing. And then of course, when you've done that a few times, you're back to the ball and seeing if you can get that same feeling that you've got in the circle drill. So those are 3 of my favorite drills to help players release the club, to square it up and get the full energy onto the ball. And the role of part of the role of a coach is to be able to kind of pick and choose the best drills to fit the player. So there will be 1 or 2 of those drills that really work well for you, not necessarily all of them. So give them all a try, and please let me know which one you felt was most easy to kind of strike the ball and control the ball flight in the comments below.